Bruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Kuf Mem Beis Amud Aleph. 19 lines from the bottom. Our Mishnah taught us if you have a basket with Truma Tameya, which is Muktzah, together with Truma Tahira and Chulin, which you took already Truma Samaisus from, then you may move that basket even with the Truma Tameya Muktzah inside of it, because it's Betela to the more Chashuv Truma Tahira and the Chulin. Agav this din, the Mishnah brought Meduma. Meduma is a mixture of Chulin with Truma. Unlike other Isurim, which is Botel Beroiv or Botel Beshishim, when it comes to Truma that is mixed with Chulin, the Chachamim were machmir, and they said it has to have 100 parts kineged that Truma, to mevatel that Truma. In addition to that, after it already has 100 parts kineged the one part of Truma, still the Chachamim said you must take out one part of that 101 parts to then give it to the Kohen, so he should not lose Truma. So Rabbi Yehuda said the din is that when it comes to Meduma, this admixture of Chulin and Truma, and you have 100 parts of Truma and 100 parts of Chulin and 1 part of Truma, so he says that you can go ahead and take that one part out, which is now mixed together, on Shabbos itself, and is not considered to be a problem on Shabbos to do that. Ask the Gemara right away, why not? Hare says the Gemara, Amai Hakam Misakein. He's coming to Misakein. And we know that when it comes to making a tikkun, for example, taking Trumas and Maisris, that's an Isser D'Rabbanan, because a person might come to the Misakein Akli. And being Misakein Akli is an Isser D'Oraisa of Maki B'Patish. So ask the Gemara, how is it then mutter for a person to go ahead and take out one portion from this 101 mixture of Meduma? It's Misakein. Answers the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Eliezer Svirule. The Gemara explains that Rabbi Yehuda explains his shita like Rabbi Eliezer. The Omar Truma be'ena machta. For Rabbi Eliezer says that Truma is distinctively separated. And therefore, just like we say that Truma is distinctively separated, over here in this mixture of 100 parts Chulin and 1 part Truma, we see that the 1 part Truma is separated out, whereby the rest is all Chulin, and therefore there's no real tikkun because it's already something that's mesukan. So when he takes out that 1 part of the 101 parts, that's not going to be presenting a tikkun on Shabbos. Where do we find that Rabbi Eliezer says that when it's Truma, it's distinctively set apart? Disnan. It states in the Mishnah, Sa Truma shenafla lepachos mimeya v'nidamu. If you have a Sa of Truma that falls into a Chulin that is less than 100 parts, let's say it's 90 parts Chulin, so then it's medame. It's now is meduma because it has this one truma that's mixed with 90 parts of chulin. V'nafal min hamedume lemokom acher, and of those 91 parts, you have 1 part that then falls into chulin. So how do we view that second mixture? Rabbi Eliezer oime midamas kitrumas vadai. Rabbi Eliezer is the opinion that it's considered to be completely Truma that fell in, and therefore out of the 91 parts, 1 part goes into now that new Chulin, that second mixture, and then comes into the mixture as being Meduma with that second mixture. Whereas the Chachamim say that 1 out of 91 parts that goes into the next Chulin, it falls into the Chulin. So then you need 100 kineged that 1/90th of Truma. So we see over here that Rabbi Eliezer is the opinion that we take the Truma and we distinctively set it apart. And that's why when that 90 parts Chulin and 1 part Truma goes ahead and falls into, or 1 part falls into the Chulin, so we look at it as if the part of Truma is falling into the Chulin. Says the Gemara, and therefore over here as well in our Mishnah, when Rabbi Yehuda says that's meduma that has 100 parts chulin and 1 part truma, you can go ahead and take out 1 part because it's already, truma is distinctively set apart, whereby you're not being mesaken now on Shabbos because it's already chulin set aside from the truma. The Gemara is challenging and says, no. When does Rabbi Eliezer say his din, that the truma is distinctively set apart? That's when it comes to lechumra, like in the case that we just described. But lekula mishamas, but in our Mishnah, which is lekula, which enables you to go ahead and take out 100 chulin with 1 part truma, that's lekula. Who says you distinctively set it apart, lekula? Elohuda Omer Rabbi Shimon, rather Rabbi Yehuda holds lekula like Rabbi Shimon, that a distinctive part of truma is set aside. Kidisnan, like it says in the following Mishnah, Sa truma shenafel lameya. If you have a sa of truma that falls into 100 parts of chulin, so now that 100 parts is in itself really mevatil the truma. But it says over here in the Mishnah, V'lo hispik lahagbia at shenafel acheres. You didn't get a chance to take out a part from that mixture until another saw of truma fell into that mixture. Harei zu asura, this is considered to be asur, because after all, you have now 2 parts of truma into 100 parts of chulin. Rabbi Shimon said it's a mutter, because after all, the truma was set aside together with 100 parts of chulin, so it's not considered to be a mixture anymore. And then when another part of chulin falls into that 100 parts of chulin, then it also becomes something that is no longer asur. It becomes batal keneged the 100 parts of chulin. Ask the Gemara, umimai dilma hasim bahaka mifligi. Maybe over there the following is the machlokes. The Tana kama sover afal gad naflu bezeh achar zeh kiman de naflu bebas achas domi. The Tana Kama holds, since even though it's true it fell one after the next, it's as if we look at it that it fell all together, and therefore it's 2 parts of truma that fell into 100 parts of chulin, whereby you only have 1 part of truma against 50 parts of chulin. You have 1 truma connected 50 parts of chulin. Rabbi Shimon sovar kamaise batil b'meya v'otibatil b'meya v'chad. Rabbi Shimon says that the 1 part of truma in the first mixture went into 100 parts of chulin, whereby it became batil to the chulin, and now you have 101 parts of chulin. And then you had another 1 part of truma that fell into 101 parts of chulin, and therefore it's batal also. Elo, rather, the Gemara explains that Rabbi Yehuda's shita here in our Mishnah follows a different opinion. Elohuda Omer Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. The Tanya, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer, Noisin Einov bitzad zeh, v'oicha bitzad acher. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar is the opinion that a person can take the meduma and mentally look at the meduma and look at it and say, this part is going to be eaten, while the other part is going to be the truma, and I'll be mafrish from that truma. So even without doing a physical act, the mental thought that part of this side will be truma, and I can eat the other side, that's considered to be sufficient to go ahead and eat the other part. And therefore Rabbi Eliezer ascribes to such an opinion, because Rabbi Eliezer is saying here in our Mishnah, it's already considered to be misukan, since you can mentally look at it and look at that part being truma, and the rest you can go ahead and eat. So therefore, by you then going ahead and taking the part, 1 part of the 101 parts from this mixture, is not going to be considered to be a tikkun. Ask the Gemara, misover la keva say, does Rabbi Yehuda really hold like this opinion of Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar? From the top of Kuv Mem Beis, v'ha miflig polig ilave, but Rabbi Yehuda argues on Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. Like it says in the following brayso, the Tanya, Rabbi Yehuda oimer ma'alin es hameduma be'echadu meya. Rabbi Yehuda says, like he tells us in our Mishnah, that you have a mixture of meduma of 100 parts chulin, 1 part truma. You go ahead and take out 1 part on Shabbos. it's not considered to be a tikkun. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar omer noisin einov b'tzad zeh v'oichem mitzad acher. Whereas Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says you can look at this mixture and look at it and say this part is going to be truma and the other part you can go ahead and eat. So you see, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar does not hold that you can actually take out one part from this mixture because it would be a tikkun. Therefore, obviously, Rabbi Yehuda does not hold like Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. Answers the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda adifa mit Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. Rabbi Yehuda does hold like Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, but he is even more makil. In other words, he says that because you can go ahead and look at this mixture and say it as being one part truma and the other part you can go ahead and eat from, therefore, it's already considered to be something that's metukan, since the mental act is sufficient. Therefore, when you go ahead and physically take out one part, it's not considered to be a tikkun. That would be concerned that maybe you'll come to be misakein a kli on Shabbos, and therefore the chacham would never go there on such a situation of taking one part out from this meduma. Our Mishnah now goes on to discuss tiltum min hatzad. Says the Mishnah, ha'evin she'al pi hachavis mate al tzida v'hi noifel. If a person has a chavis filled with wine, and on top of it is a stone, so he wants to get access to the wine. So it says over here in the Mishnah, he should tilt the chavis without picking up the chavis. By merely tilting the chavis, the Evan will fall off, and they'll have access to the wine. Haisa ben achaviyos. However, if this chavis is amongst other chaviyos, and by tilting the chavis, the stone will break and damage other chaviyos that are around it, then magbia umata al tzida v'inoifeles. Then you can pick up the chavis with the stone on top of it, and you can transport it away from the other chaviyos, and then tilt it so that the stone falls off. Mo shalakar. The Mishnah goes on to say, if you have money on top of a pillow, and you want to use the pillow, minar esakar ve'hein noiflois. You can shake the pillow, causing the money to fall off, and then go ahead and use the pillow. Again, another form of tiltum min hatzad. Haisa love lishil sheles lishleshes mikancha b'smartut. Our Mishnah now goes on to say that once we're talking about a pillow, since a pillow is normally made out of a beged, out of cloth, therefore the Mishnah goes on to discuss what happens when that cloth, that pillow, may have something dirty on it. Lishleshes means it has either roik, spit, or it has soya on it. So it says, how do you clean it off? It's Shabbos, because after all, libun is a malacha d'oraisa, and kibus is a tolda of libun, also a malacha d'oraisa. So how can you go ahead and clean this off? The Mishnah says, mekancha b'smartut. You can take a rag, a smartut, another beged, and you can wipe it softly on this soya or on this roik. In other words, you can't mishafshef, you can't rub it, and you also cannot put water on it because that's considered to be a form of kibus, both of those acts. But what you could do is you can softly rub the smartut on it. Haisa shel or, if it was, however, a pillow made out of ore, that means that it had leather wrapping, the leather encasement. Here you could put water. You can't be mishafshef, but you can put water, and it's not considered to be an isser of kibus when it's on ore. And therefore that would be mutter. Says the Gemara, Omar Rav Huna Marav, to qualify our Mishnah, that said you can go ahead and metaltil this chavis with a stone on top of it. Says the Mishnah, or you can even metaltil, even without metaltil, you can go ahead and tilt the chavis with the stone on top of it, depending on the situation. Says the Gemara, Omar Rav Huna Marav, Lo shanu ela b'shoicheach, ava meniach nase bosi davar ha'asur. What we're talking about over here in the Mishnah is that the stone was accidentally placed on the chavis. However, if the stone was purposely left there on Bein HaShmoshos before Shabbos, then it's going to then cause the chavis to be a basis, the davar asur, and therefore you could not move the chavis whatsoever. You couldn't then go ahead and tilt it, and you couldn't certainly not pick it up. The Mishnah said that if a person has a chavis amongst other chaviyos, then instead of tilting the chavis, because he can then break the other chavis around it, he can go do a more chamor tiltum minatzad by picking up the chavis with the stone on top of it and removing it away from the other chavios and then tilting off the stone on top. Ask the Gemara, man tana the kol hecha diika isur vehetero behetero tarchinan beisur tarchinan. Who is the tana who holds that when you have both heter and isur, you're matriach with the heter, not with the isur? In other words, that over here you have a stone on top of the chavis. Then instead of being matriach yourself with this stone which is isur, we're matriach with the chavis by removing the chavis and then tilting the stone. Who is that author? Answers the Gemara, Rabbi Chana, Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, he. Is Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. This nan, it states in the Mishnah, haboirer kitniyos b'yomtiv. If a person wants to select kitniyos on yomtiv, Beis Shammai oimrim boirer oichel ve'oichel. Beis Shammai says the same way that there's an Isser D'Oraisa of selecting on Shabbos, so too it applies equally on yomtiv. And therefore, if you want to then permissibly boirer on yomtiv, just like on Shabbos, you have to borer oicha mitoich psoiles. You have to then do it for immediate use, and it has to be with your hand, which is not derech breira bekach. Beis Hillel oimrim boirer oichel. Beis Hillel oimrim borer kedarko becheko v'tamchui. Beis Hillel argues and says you can borer kedarko by taking the psoiles away from the oichel, and you can do so with a cheko and tamchui by putting a tray on your lap or a sheet, by then tilting the tray or the sheet, causing the beans to roll to the other side, and thereby being left with the psoiles. So here the Mishnah, without distinction, says that Beis Hillel says you can be borer on yontiv because it's letzorich oichel nefesh. V'tanya omar Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, and the Brisa says Rabbi Shimon Gamliel explained, ba'med dvar mamurim. He says, when is this true? He says, not always the case, like this Mishnah is reading, that you can, according to Beis Hillel, always borer kedarko by taking the psoiles away from the oichel. Says Rav Shmuel, when is this true? Only sha'oichel merubal al psoiles, when you have more oichel than psoiles, and it'll be too much of a tircha to take the oichel from the psoiles. Therefore, you can take the psoiles from the oichel. Aval psoiles merubal al oichel, divrei hakol bara oichel. But if you have more psoiles than oichel, then says Rav Shimon Gamliel that Rabbi Beis Hillel would agree that you would be borer the oichel from the psoiles. In other words, when you have heter and iser, then you go ahead and matriach yourself with the heter, not the iser. So too over here in our Mishnah, that our Mishnah again says that you have the Evan that you could remove, and instead of then being matriach yourself with the iser, you matriach yourself with the heter by removing the chavis that the stone is on top of. Ask the Gemara, but our Mishnah is talking about where the oichel is more meruba than psoiles. In other words, our Mishnah is saying that there is more of a tircha by removing the chavis. And therefore, even Rav Shimon Gamliel would agree that you could take the psoiles, in this case you would take the oven directly off, because it's only when it's less of a tircha, does he say, you should matriach in the heter and not the iser. Answers the Gemara, Hocha Nami. Even in this case in our Mishnah, there is more tircha by removing the stone. Kivan de iboy le mishkal lo mishtakil le yayin adeshokil lo. Rashi takes out the gears, has a gear without the word le'evin. Bipsoiles meruba ala oichel dami. In other words, he says when you want to remove the wine, you'd have to pick up the chavis, and ultimately to then take out all of the contents of the chavis, you'd have to then pick up the chavis and then turn it over to get all of the yain that's on the bottom of the chavis and to be poured out. So therefore, in addition to then having to then take off the stone, you'll also have to pick up the chavis and ultimately pour the yain outside of the chavis. So therefore, that's more of a tircha than if you already had picked up the chavis and remove it, which anyways you're tilting off the stone. When you go ahead and pour the wine, you already have the chavis in your hand. So therefore, again, our Mishnah is the opinion of Rav Shimon Gamliel, who says when you have iser and heter, and there's going to be more of a tircha to be matriach with the iser, then you're matriach yourself with the heter. And that's why over here, instead of taking the stone off the chavis, you go ahead and take the chavis itself and matriach with the heter and not the iser. The Mishnah goes on to explain, and this is what we quoted before, that when you have a chavis between other chaviyos, then you pick up the chavis with the stone on top and then remove it from the other chavis. Then you go ahead and tilt the chavis with the stone on top of it to fall off. Tanya, the Gemara brings a brayser, Rabbi Yosi Oimer, Haisa ha-chavis munachas ba'oitzer, oisha hayu klei zechuchis munachim tachtel. If you have this chavis in an oitzer with other chaviyos, or you have glass that is around this chavis, and therefore you cannot go ahead and tilt the chavis to allow the stone to fall because it will damage that which is around it. Therefore, magbia, says the Brayse, l'makom acher umata al tzidav hinofeles. Then you should go ahead and pick it up, bring it to a place away from the other chaviyos and the glass, and then tilt it. V'noitel heimena mashetzorich loy umachzir lemekayma, and take the contents of the wine that you want, and then you go ahead and return it. The Mishnah then brought a similar type of case of tiltum and atzai when you have money on top of a pillow, and a person wants to go ahead and remove that money. How does he do so? It says you can menair the pillow so that the money falls off. Omar Rav Chia bar Ashi Marav lo shanu ella b'shoicheach. He says it's only true when a person accidentally left the money before Shabbos on the pillow, bein hashmashos. He forgot it. Therefore, he says you can go ahead and menar the pillow to make the money fall off. Aval b'meiniach. But if he left it there purposely, ben hashmashos, then naaseh basis davar osa, then the pillow becomes a basis, and therefore you cannot go ahead and move the pillow. It's muktzah. All of this is talking about because you need the use of the pillow itself. Then you can menair the pillow and the money will fall off. That's what we're talking about over here in the Mishnah. But if you need the place where the pillow is situated, then you go ahead and pick up the entire pillow with the money and bring it to somewhere else. And that's exactly what we learned on the previous Amud, that indeed our Mishnah is speaking about here in the Sefer that you need the pillow l'tzarech gufoy, because again, if you need l'tzarech mekoimoy, then you can remove the entire pillow itself with the money on top of it without having to menair it. Since being menair it will not help you because you need the place, and if you're menair and the money falls down in the place where you need it, it's not going to then serve the purpose. So you can go ahead and pick up the pillow with the money on top of it and remove it. All this that we're talking about in the Mishnah, where you're menair the pillow to remove the money that is on top of it, is talking about when you need the usage of the pillow. Then that's satisfactory. Then you don't have to do more than that. But if you do need the place where the pillow is situated, then you can go ahead and do even more by picking up the pillow with the money on top of it and removing it.